Ladies and gentlemen, good day and welcome to the Arvind Smart Spaces Limited discussion on financial results for the quarter and half year ended on 30th September 2021 conference call. As a reminder, all participant lines will be in the listen-only mode. There will be an opportunity for you to ask questions after the presentation concludes. Should you need assistance during the conference call, please signal for an operator by pressing star then 0 on your touchtone phone. Please note that this conference is being recorded. I now hand the conference over to Mr. Kamal Singhal, Managing Director and CEO. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Thank you. A very warm welcome to all of you, and thank you very much for spending time for this call. I will just go through some of the important developments which have happened at Arvind Smart Spaces in the last quarter and little before that. At Arvind Smart Spaces, one of the important milestones that we achieved is that we have completed the preferential allotment process worth 85 crore rupees in favor of HDFC Capital Advisors and the promoters. If you can recollect, last quarter the board had approved this transaction, wherein HDFC Capital has picked up in excess of 8% stake in the parent company, which is Smart Spaces. So that transaction per se, from all points of view, has been completed during the previous quarter, and consequently, Mr. Vipul Rungta has joined the board as a nominee director from HDFC Capital side. So extremely happy to share this information with you. And that is obviously brings two of the largest and the greatest brands in this country together to add a lot of value to all the stakeholders. So that is as far as this important information is concerned. Coming to the market side and the business side, last quarter and even before that, maybe couple of quarters, we've seen a very clear revival of real estate industry in the true sense. Obviously, COVID had an impact on everything that was being done, but nevertheless, the rebound has been truly widespread across markets and across segments also. We have clearly seen the impact of the revival in our numbers. From the industry standpoint, I think most of the segments in most of the cities and markets are now either very close to or they have already surpassed the levels of pre-COVID when it comes to fresh sales and even launches, and that is quite understandable. The pent-up demand is obviously there, and more than pent-up demand, I think it's also about customers' confidence, which is coming back into this segment as an investment class as well. So they see investing in real estate. They see now a very clear reason why they should be having bigger homes and now why they should be having a home at all, which is owned by them. So the overall demand and the consumer confidence is into a very, very positive trajectory. And in our understanding, the demand is organically going, and it's also having an impact from COVID, where there is a positive impact in terms of people feeling the need of having houses which are a little bigger, or houses which are in the outskirts, houses which are little less densely populated, etc., etc. And that's driving the demand further. We also know that this is possibly one of the best times to buy houses. The affordability index, as everybody talks about these days, is at its best, possibly at its best historically, and interest rates are at all-time low. There are a lot of funds which are available, and funding a house is quite an option. The cost of owning a house, in terms of EMIs and percentage of income that one needs to share for the segment which is relevant to a consumer, looks very attractive. And the difference between the rental that one needs to pay and the EMI that one has to pay after having contributing to the initial investment in a house to be owned has narrowed significantly, and hence it makes a lot of sense for consumers and customers to buy houses rather than rent houses, and hence demand for new houses is kind of going into a very positive direction, so to say. So all in all, it's a very positive outlook that we feel, and with the structuring and formalization of economy and our segment per se, the branded and the organized players are seeing double benefits. One, the demand is up. Two, there is a clear preference of real estate as a investment class, etc. But at the same time, there is a clear trend of consolidation which are now happening. We all anticipate that to happen in some time back, but I think it's happening at this point of time. We can feel the difference there. People are clearly preferring to buy houses from players who have a credibility and legacy, etc. And also because of regulatory requirements and nuances getting added into the business per se, it makes much more sense for the landlords to rather involve a developer who has capability and systems and processes in place to do the business rather than everybody trying to do real estate on their own. And hence we see this kind of a consolidation where the smaller developers possibly are already kind of exiting, and the bigger and the more organized and formalized players are becoming more entrenched and more bigger in the sense of volumes, etc. So that's a great trend as far as Arvind Smart Spaces is concerned. We have also got some of the important milestones achieved in terms of our cash flow in the last couple of quarters. They've been extremely strong, which has resulted into our debt levels plummeting down to an abysmally low levels, which basically means that they save interest and they save costs, etc. That's one part of it. But the more important point here is that they also give us now a headroom to raise debt, fresh debt. Now that we are entering into the next orbit of our investment cycle has to restart. In fact, it has already restarted in one or the other sense already for us. But what it means is that we have a lot of scope now to pump in money from all the three possible sources. Internal approvals have been very strong in the last couple of quarters. We will share some information on that. At the same time, equity infusion has happened recently from promoters, HDFC Capital, etc. And a little more capital is anticipated in the next couple of quarters, etc. Along with that, there is a significant headroom to raise equity, debt, for example. So all these three sources make us believe that we have enough and more kind of fuel to take the investment cycle to the next level. And we've already started working around this. And we expect that a lot of action should happen on that in the coming quarters. And we've just about kick-started this growth kind of momentum in the last few months post-COVID. Coming specifically to the numbers, just to take you through some of those positive things first. Fresh sales has gone up by 64% for the quarter at 293 crores, which is this is for the first half, and for the quarter it has gone up by 17% at 184 crores. Similarly, collections have gone up very drastically, growth of 218% year-on-year for the first half at 280 crores, and for the quarter they stand 140% up at 161 crores. Unrecognized revenues are at 955 crores as on 30th September, against a number of 562 crores last year same time. In terms of financial numbers, revenues are up 31% year-on-year for the first half at 52 crores, and there is a decline of 14% year-on-year for the quarter at 25.7 crores. That is up by 8 crores to 5.2 crores as compared to last year for the first half, and there is a 37% growth on a very small base, obviously, of around 2.7 crores for the current quarter. So that's broadly the snapshot of revenues, collections, etc. We definitely are still lagging behind in terms of recognizing revenue in books of account, and that's why we keep seeing these peaks and troughs into our reported numbers in the formal sort of books of accounts. But nevertheless, the trend on fresh sales and bookings and investment, etc., is very, very encouraging. The company is at a very, very strong footing. The performance, operational performance, the sales performance, etc., is highly encouraging in the last couple of quarters. We've seen a very strong collection, very strong fresh booking, and hence we feel that this is the perfect time to get into the next orbit of investment and creating pipeline, which we are working around. And we very recently kind of started our investment cycle, as I just said before. So that's pretty much from my side. Maybe we can now take questions if you have any.
Thank you very much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on their touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handset while asking questions. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. To ask a question, please press star and 1. First question is from the line of Rishikesh Oza from Robo Capital. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. So my question is, our high growth sales, they have dipped in this quarter. So if you could please comment on that.
Sure. So last quarter, if you're comparing this with that, then it was a launch. I mean, after the launch, the momentum is very strong in our understanding, and we are selling fairly well there in any case. But obviously, as compared to a launch period, the stabilization period is supposed to be a little moderate, and that's what is happening. But otherwise, it's very, very encouraging. There's quite a few, there's quite a heavy traffic in terms of footfall and interest there, and we're selling very healthy. In fact, phase 2 of Hydro, which is called Chirping Wood, essentially it's the same project. There also, the numbers could be actually read by clubbing these two, this one location, etc. We opened the next phase also of the same project. So all in all, it's pretty strong, and it's doing very well for us.
Okay. So, sir, because, last year around 500,000 square feet we used to sell per quarter on average, and this quarter it is like around 28,000-30,000 square feet. So, when do you think it will bounce back again?
For Hydro?
Yes, Hydro.
So, as I said, launch period always is supposed to be extremely different from a stabilized phase, and that's what is happening. This quarter, Hydro and Chirping Woods put together possibly sold around 13 crores in this. And we target to sell around 5 to 10 crores a month in any case. So our 20-25 crores is a steady state sales, which is very healthy. 100 crore, 80 to 100 crore sales in one project at one location in an Ahmedabad market is supposed to be fairly decent. So averaging around 15-20 crores should happen, and it should continue to happen going forward.
Oh, okay.
But obviously it is going to be, or it's supposed to be reading a little low as compared to what the launch numbers were. Launch was extremely successful. It was it got a very, very high traction, and possibly one of the most successful ones for us. But now we're in steady state phase where the numbers are still very healthy, and we expect that the momentum will continue this way.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. A reminder to the participants, to ask a question, please press star and 1. Next question is on the line of Shantanu Mantri from Think Investments. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Hello, sir. Congrats for a very strong fresh sales and booking number. My question, I have two questions. The first question is, I wanted some details on the cash flows for the quarter. So we know your collections are at 161 crores. I wanted to know some details on the cash outflows for the quarter. So the construction cost, the overhead outflow, and the finance cost.
I'll request Ankit, our CFO.
Yeah. So to answer your question, we do not give very specific details on quarter-wise outflow, but for your good analysis and comparison, now we have started giving you a project at a summary level, operating cash flow. So we have presented this operating cash flow for a June quarter on September 28th as a part of corporate strategy presentation, which is there on our website. You can go through that. and now we have refreshed this for September. So the delta you can derive as a Q2 number instead of giving very specific number. And besides that, as we discussed and we promised in the last conference call that we will be giving more details in terms of cash outflow and all. So this is the format we have chosen, and now we will be presenting this format every quarter in terms of what is the estimated operating cash flow from the business which has been launched and which is yet to be launched.
So I'll suggest you go through the refreshed presentation which is already uploaded.
Yes.
Yeah, it is already uploaded. It will have a fair amount of data on operating cash at project level, etc. I think most of the queries should be answered there. But as a very broad conclusion, we can say that the collection is what we know. The debt levels have gone down quite decently during the period, and it has gone down by around 50 crores. So this 50 crore pretty much was the surplus after covering for overheads and construction expenses and everything else that one was supposed to be spending. And in fact, little bit of that money also went towards acquisition of new projects. So after covering for all these, 50 crore net reduction in debt has come. So that's the net summary of this, but the presentation should give you a little more detail about how things have moved at the project level on operating cash.
Sure. So my second question is now on a broader level. I see we have around 955 crores of unrecognized revenue and another 2,900 crores of inventory, which will come, which includes both our launched and to be launched projects. And this I'm seeing will happen over the next 3 years. So we have around a total sales of 3,900 crores, and if I just do a rough calculation, around 1,100-1,200 crores of EBITDA. So and that's also shown in your presentation that 1,278 crores of estimated operating cash flow. So my question here was on timing. So I see most of these projects are going to get completed in 2024. So if you could give us some picture on division of these cash flows for the next 3 years in your estimate, that would be really helpful.
So in the presentation, if you see one of the slides which is called project details, and in the segment B, which basically refers ongoing projects, in one of the other files we know, in the other files we know how much is operating cash expected in those ongoing projects, and also this sheet tells you by when the project is expected to be completed. So this will give you a fair idea and a basis to do the numbers and calculation to essentially arrive at an NPV. That's the idea that you are trying to achieve with these two sheets put together. Now I think it's important to just collate these two things, and you should get the numbers or the analysis that you possibly wanted to do from this.
We don't provide year-wise forecast.
But year-wise forecast at this point in time we don't provide. I mean, we are currently focusing on execution and also focusing on what we have immediately on our hands. So we just want to be a little conservative about forecasting times in future. But I think there's enough and more data for a real estate expert to decipher and calculate what kind of number can be expected from these coming 2-3 years.
Understood. So one last question. This 1,278 crores of estimated operating cash flow, this is our share, right? Because on few projects we have 55% revenue share, 45%. So that's adjusted for that, or it's on the overall project level?
That is absolutely adjusted for everything.
Okay.
This is the net of all expenditures, and this is only for the ongoing projects and projects which are already acquired and in the process of launching. This does not include the current investment plans that the company has, because we are almost reaching a zero debt level, or we already reached a zero debt level.
Right.
At this point in time, and we've got fresh equity, etc. So we're not even counting our imminent investments which are being planned in next couple of months, 3-4 months time from now. So this is only about the set as it exists today without counting for any investments, and this is obviously only our share and nothing else.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much. That's it from my side.
Thank you very much. Before we take the next question, we would like to remind participants that you may press star and one to ask a question. Next question is from the line of Ritvik Seth from One Up Finance. Please go ahead.
Hi. Sir, congratulations on a great set of results for the half and the quarter as well. Sir, I have a few questions. Firstly, can you throw some light and some broad comments on the potential of the HDFC investment that they've done at the company level? And our in the last few years, we have mentioned that our aspiration is to reach 1,000 crores. So with this investment, it looks more achievable, and already we are about 500 crores. So can you throw some light on that, and what could, and you mentioned that we are looking to change our orbit. So yeah, some broader comments on that.
Yeah, so HDFC partnership is a very strategic one, and it opens quite a few avenues and competitive advantages for us. Together we can build a much stronger case for the stakeholders, consumers, and other stakeholders as well. HDFC, we started with a platform level partnership where they invested in a platform where, and specific projects were to be taken together and the profits were to be shared. But this partnership quickly grew into a much bigger one where they ultimately found value in investing into the company itself. This is one of those rarest of rare occasions as far as HDFC Group is concerned, for them to have a direct equity stake in a real estate company. I think this is their only second one in a long period of time that they have done like this. So that's a great satisfaction. It enhances the company profile and it enhances the credibility on one side. But at the same time, their nominee director, their MD and CEO joining the board of Arvind Smart Spaces adds a very different dimension to what all we could think of and what all direction that we can take. HDFC Capital is one of the largest investor in various kinds of asset classes when it comes to real estate, and their experience in not only identifying markets, their trends and their structuring capabilities, their capabilities to think through the funding side of it, and the market side of it, etc. This is enormous. And Mr. Vipul directly coming into the board and spending time with us, I think that in itself is a huge advantage. And we are, and as I just mentioned, 1,000 crore, obviously we are targeting in the short term. But 500 crores before that was an even more important milestone which we achieved last year. And now we have just about entered into the growth phase post-pandemic. We definitely took a halt in terms of investing and taking up new projects, and naturally so, with a very conscious mind. We had money and we were continuously reducing debt at a pace which was very fast, and we are almost debt-free now. But at the same time, we knew that investments have to continue. The moment we've seen this opportunity and the pandemic clouds are, so to say, very thinned out, we are into a very aggressive mode of credit acquisition now. And HDFC being there makes us much more comfortable about acquiring and getting into next orbit, as you say. So all in all, this is supposed to be a major boost to us. We have now enough and more fuel to invest, and that's the task going forward in next 3 to 4 months. Internal approvals have given us money, equity infusion has given us money, and there is a very, very significant headroom to raise debt. Even if we were to remain very conservative on debt, still there is a significant headroom. So all put together, we are planning to have a major investment cycle in next couple of months, 3 months time from now onwards.
Right. And sir, on the new acquisition that we have done in Sarjapur, I believe it's a JV as per your presentation. So, when do we expect it to get approvals and launch? Will it be this year or it will be in FY23?
I think it should be more like the first quarter of next financial.
Okay.
I mean, a month here and there, if you are very lucky, maybe we can just about hit the last week of this financial year end, but that's too much of a precision in terms of prediction. But more like first quarter of next financial should be when we should be able to launch this.
Okay. Okay. And another project that we have, the upcoming one at Devanahalli. So that's a JV project according to the presentation, but our economic interest is mentioned at 100%. So can you clarify on that? Like,
just one second. Just give me a second. I'll just go through this. So this is the HDFC platform project that you are talking about.
okay, okay,
And in the platform, HDFC, as far as the entity level profits and these predictions are concerned, they entirely belong to us because they have contributed money through an OCD route. So that's the cost side of it.
okay,
And whatever EBITDA and other projections are given there, they belong to us. So that's why at the entity level, it's a 100% owned project by the entity, which is 100% owned by us, HDFC being an OCD provider.
okay. So basically, we'll be providing the interest to them,
Correct.
and we'll be getting the profits, net profits out of the project.
Correct. Correct.
Right. And so my one more clarification on the previous participant's question. Even I had a similar question on the estimated operating cash flow. So if I look at the project that we have given on the project details slide, and if I compare it to the estimated operating cash flow, it looks like that 1,200 crores of estimated operating cash flow is for the total ongoing and completed projects and upcoming projects. So, is that understanding right, that this is for the entire, and then the JV share will have to be reduced from this JV share and DM share in the respective projects?
No, you don't have to reduce that from the numbers. These numbers are net of what is supposed to be coming from here onwards, which belong to Arvind Smart Spaces only. So it's all netted off from everything that we've received so far, and it's also netted off against anything that we have to pay to landlords, etc.
Okay. 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 Probably I'll connect with Ankit offline on this.
Sure, sir. You can take more information. There's little more detail available there in the presentation. But I think if you need little further assistance on that, you can always get in touch with the office, Ankit included, and we'll be happy to provide you clarification on this.
Sure. And just one last question on the projects pipeline that we would be exploring. So, would it be possible to share what kind of projects and locations also we can go for with HDFC coming in now? Would we stick to 50 to 70 crores of land parcel acquisition and build on that, or we would go for larger projects and larger JV JDAs going forward?
So there are two aspects to the project acquisition strategy. One is that we will be remaining focused on a few things. One of them being residential as our primary segment. So that will remain as it is, broadly speaking, unless there is a adjacency or that kind of a situation where you do some small piece other than residential. So that's one that remains as it is. Second is the geographical focus. So we intend to significantly go deeper into the geographies that we are in, which is Bangalore and Ahmedabad primarily, and now Pune. We've just kind of done some sort of development in Pune. We wetted our feet there, and now we understand the regulatory environment better. So we think that it's time for us to possibly dive deeper into Mumbai, outskirts of Mumbai naturally, and Pune. I mean, having done one of these kind of beta projects. But apart from that, we really think that going too horizontal, too much wide will not be a great idea at this point in time. Every geography is a new geography with its own nuances, and hence primarily we'll focus on our existing markets, which is Ahmedabad, Bangalore, and Pune, of course, and as a geographical adjacency, maybe MMR, the outskirts areas, possibly something that we'll start looking at from here onwards. So going forward, you might see action in MMR in Pune, apart from further level of investment that we intend to do in a very strong way in the existing markets of Bangalore and Ahmedabad.
Okay. So would it be fair to assume that on our new JV, JDA, and even buying land parcels, we can spend about 250 to 300 crores with the kind of collections which we have on an annual basis, or in that range, and then construction cost of around 200 to 300 crores from FY23. Would that be a fair assessment?
You are saying 250 crores for a project, or in general for the whole period you are saying?
Cumulative, say, for a few projects acquired outright, and for JV, JDA as business development, and construction cost of 200 to 250 crores on an annual basis. So that would be 400 to 500 crores of about collections that we could have. So would that be a reasonable assessment? Because with the kind of internal cash flow, with the kind of leverage ratio, and with HDFC coming in as well, would this be a reasonable assumption, or it sounds aggressive to you?
There are two ways to look at it. One is a snapshot, which is the current snapshot in terms of where we are at this point in time. Obviously, our debt levels used to be 250 to 75 crores or thereabouts. And that level has to come back, isn't it? For the reasons of very strong cash flows, etc., and we having a halt in our investment cycle due to pandemic, that money obviously has been repaid, but obviously it has to be claimed back on a higher equity base significantly. We've added 2 years of profits, and we've also added the preferential share capital we just gone into the company. So the equity base has gone much wider. But having said that, very commonsensical understanding could be that the old level plus something is a debt headroom that we have as we speak today. So around 350 crores odd. And obviously we have reserves, we have fresh equity which has landed into our banks, which are not utilized at this point in time. So all in all, 450 crore rupees of investment in next few quarters should be fine. It's pretty much doable and targeted, so to say. So that's the beginning point. And from there onwards, depending upon cash flows, internal accruals, and how projects are launched, timelines, etc., we should have a very healthy investment plan every year going forward.
Sure. That's very encouraging, sir. Thank you and all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next question is from the line of Deepak Poddar from Sapphire Capital. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, sir, for the opportunity. So just wanted to clarify one thing. Will it be fair to say like Ahmedabad and Bangalore together next 3 to 4 years can generate 4,000 crores of revenue? Will that be fair, or
we are at 500 crore sale, and very soon we want to double it to a 1,000 crore sales, right, on an annual basis. So in 3 to 4 years, 3 to 4,000 crore is not a problem at all. Our inventory itself is 3,000 crores at this point in time from the current projects. That's very much possible. This is a small piece, and it's not going too deep into these markets. It's very shallow in our understanding, so to say. We're doing some 4 or 5 projects in Bangalore and 4 or 5 projects in Ahmedabad, but I'm sure Bangalore can easily take 3 to 4 times what we are doing at this point in time in terms of volume and square feet, etc. And hence going deeper and to sell 1,000, 2,000 crores every year in these 2 markets should be possible. And then we are also thinking of going to MMR and Pune going forward.
So I was also talking about the revenue recognition as well, because we have got about 1,000 crores of unrecognized revenue and inventory of 2,900 crores. So that ideally will get recognized into revenue over next 3 to 4 years, right? That entire 4,000 crore.
Correct. That's correct. On an average, yes, some projects might span a little beyond, and some of them will actually happen much faster in next 1.5 years only, and revenue recognition should also happen like that. Apart from the normal kind of fluctuations which one expects because of the times when individual projects get completed and hence accordingly coming into books of account. But yeah, on a very broad basis, 3 to 4 years, this revenue recognition should come into our books of account.
Revenue. And generally, the projects that we are doing is in the range of 28 to 30% EBITDA margin, right? That you have maintained in the past.
It's really consistent for a long time, and that's how we work on our projects. And broadly speaking, 25 to 30% margin should be something that one could kind of guesstimate looking at the past trends.
Okay, understood. Yeah, thank you very much for the clarification. That's it from me. All the way.
Thank you. Participants who wish to ask a question may enter star and 1 at this time. Next question is a follow-up from the line of Ritik Seth from One Up Finance. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, thanks for the follow-up. So this 1,000 crores of sales value, can we do it by FY24? Like FY22 would be about 450-500 crores, so doubling in 3 years. FY25.
Will be a bit louder.
I'll tell you what he said. 1,000 crore top line, is it possible to be achieved in the financial year 24 or 25?
We are investing.
We have been. Sorry. Yeah. So we have been growing on an average. There will be obviously yearly fluctuations, but generally we have been growing at around 30%. And hence to double in 3 years should be absolutely possible. And if we are investing so heavily at this point in time, the fresh launches are a very major source of fresh bookings, and that's what we are expecting to go up very significantly in next 6 to 8 months time. And the investment pipeline is very, very strong. So normal growth would have taken 3 years to double. That's what we have been doing for the last 8-9 years at that rate. But because the investment cycle is changing and possibly it is stronger than what we have been doing in the past, there is a chance and reason to believe that we could achieve it earlier.
Okay. And sir, just one more clarification on the estimated operating cash flow. So if I do a back of the envelope calculation, it seems that the receivables from the sold units along with the unsold inventory that we have and the balance cost to be incurred from the completed and ongoing projects is about 800 crores for the total projects that we have mentioned. So and 400 crores for the upcoming 400 to 450 crores for the upcoming projects, the surplus. So something is not adding up. It seems like because the estimated operating cash flow for the entire projects mentioned is about 1,250 crores, and we'll have to reduce that significant portion of the JV share, and in projects where we have DM fees only, we'll be getting only 10%. So that will also significantly reduce.
So the column which basically reads as balance cost to be incurred comprises of whatever we have to pay to our JV, JD or DM partners. So this 2,300 crores will also include 90% of the money that we have to pay to the DM project, and this 1,278 will only include 10% DMC as far as we are concerned. So obviously, normally the cost to do project, construction, etc. can't be 2,300 from this volume.
Right. Yeah.
Basically, this is the land component included for the JVs, JDs, and DMs, which makes this number a little higher in terms of proportion. And hence, once you take that into account, the numbers start making sense. And that's how we are left with 1,278 crores to be our net cash flows.
Okay. So I'll probably take it offline with Ankit.
Sure. No, if you need any clarification, Ankit will be happy and will take and clarify this table. But as a matter of fact, you can just keep that in mind that 1278 takes into account construction cost, overheads, selling, distribution, or whatever cost that we incur, along with the land cost, including the share of partnerships, and all that is accounted for in 2,300 crores plus the construction cost, etc. And 1278 is net of that.
Right. So gross level, once we complete all the projects that are listed here, we'll realize this amount.
Right. Absolutely.
At project level, yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. Okay. And sir, one last question: what would be the cash tax that we would be paying?
Sorry, what will be the
cash tax rate for us?
So cash tax is paid based on the accounting profit. So for all the companies, it has to be paid as per the profit which is recognized in the PNU. So if there is a delay in revenue recognition or it is on a completion method, the cash outflow for taxation will come at that point of time.
Okay.
So we pay tax when we recognize.
Yeah, as per the books of account.
To that extent, there is a delay in paying tax.
Right. To a certain extent, what will happen is there are various structures where LLPs, we would have to pay tax basis certain different other than India, which is on a POCM method. So their tax is preponed to a certain extent.
So wherever the projects are happening at LLP level or LLP entity, which used to be a pretty prevalent practice for us, of late we are doing more projects directly into the company, so the tax rates are also more efficient there, a tax rate of 25%, etc. But also in case of company where we pay 25%, we pay taxes when we recognize, which is significantly later after the completion of the project. Till that time it remains in WIP. And hence practically, the recent projects and most of the recently done projects, it will be paid later based on completion. But in case of LLP, there is a provision where we have to pay, irrespective when we recognize, we have to pay based on the old POCM method.
Because their books of account works.
Yeah, their books of account works on POCM only.
Okay.
But going forward, you are right. I mean, the point here is that the tax payment generally will keep on gravitating towards the completion method. When the project gets completed, you in one shot pay as far as cash outflows are concerned as tax for the project.
So it would be 25% once we recognize the revenue in our books of account.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next question is from the line of Shantanu Mantri from Think Investments. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the follow-up. Actually, the previous participant, he asked the question I wanted to ask, but I just have one clarification. So when we're talking about this 1,000 crores run rate, this is basically your fresh bookings for the year, right? So we are at 500 and our short-term target is to go to 1,000 crores, right?
Correct, yes.
And with the kind of investments and new launches and the HDFC partnership and all, going to an annual rate of 3,000 crores in the next 3 to 4 years is achievable, right?
Not 3,000 crores. We are at 500 crores.
Mm-hmm.
At a 30% growth rate, it should take around 3 years to double it.
Right.
All these initiatives, the 3 years should be, sort of shortened to the extent possible, and there is a likelihood and possible reason to believe. But 3,000 crores obviously is not going to be happening in 3 years. That's going to take time, and those are projections in time based on the growth rate, etc., etc. We have not really talked about it, but that's a guesstimate one has to make. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Karthikeyan from Suyash Advisors. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Thanks. Couple of conceptual questions on the business model. As you move ahead, given the challenges involved in horizontal projects versus vertical, how should the mix evolve, say, over a 2-3-4 year time frame?
So there'll always be a healthy mix. I mean, we're not going to be going either ways too much. Current trend and the past trends have been a little bit of orientation going towards horizontals. And within horizontals, there are two very distinct segments which operate in a very different way. The plotting is one product, and the other is villas. Now, villas are not very different from what all is required to be done in terms of expertise and selling and, connecting with customers, etc., as compared to an apartment. But plotting definitely is a very, very different animal in terms of money, in terms of, commitment, in terms of upfront investments in land, etc., etc. So I'll rather say there are three segments. One is the absolute horizontal, which is plotting. Second is a villa or a low-rise segment. And third, the apartment, which is high-rise, say 10, 20, 25 floors, etc. So within these three, I think will be fairly balanced. There will be a little more orientation towards the segment 1 and 2, which is plotting and villa, for reasons that we have analyzed ourselves here for the company and the direction that we want to take in next few years. But nevertheless, construction-oriented projects like a high-rise, etc., even if there is a little bit of a pause, not a pause, but a little less concentration on those. But nevertheless, eventually and in the long term, they will remain a very important piece in our portfolio.
Right. So, is there a pipeline for especially plotting that you could share? I mean, some sense of visibility. What kind of acreage would you be able to aggregate?
So the two projects that we did in the last quarter, etc. One is an absolute plotting product, where approximately little less than 40 acres is already acquired, and we are at a fairly advanced stage of getting the conversion, etc. done, and we'll launch phase 1 very soon, possibly in the first quarter of next year. And we are trying to almost double this size in terms of the land volume. So from 40, maybe the idea and the opportunity is to add another 40, 45, 50 acres. That becomes a fairly large investment into plotting. This land costs somewhere around little less than 2 crores an acre. So this will be a good 150 to 200 crores of investment in land at one place for plotting. So that, and it's a very promising location, and we know that there are quite a few success stories around. So that's one. The second one is in segment B, as we just discussed. It's going to be a very heavy villa product spanning across 18 acres on Sarjapur Road. And that's how we've acquired. So this gives a fairly good indication of the orientation which is currently going on, and we're focusing on similar projects, but we're keeping an eye open for high rises also. But yeah, I mean, you can assume that pretty much similar projects are expected to happen in next few months.
Interesting. And it doesn't bother you that the revenue can become a bit lumpy given the nature of the product? Or do you believe that there is sufficient traction and demand for being able to have a smooth run for a point of time? On A&D, that is.
Can you repeat your question? I mean, what exactly is the...
What I asked you was that, the land development kind of projects can be somewhat lumpy in nature in terms of traction. So I'm asking you in that context, between being able to, sell apartments much more easily versus such projects, does that bother you? Doesn't that bother you both ways?
Both the products and the segments have their own nuances. There are pros and there are negatives about the products. In land-oriented products and projects, there's always a higher investment involved in buying the land for sure. But that's where your JV-JD models come into play. If you can lock large land parcels through JV-JDs, then even the upfront investment goes down. Of course, you have to share value from what you create on those agreements. But having acquired a land which is not too large, which is not too unmanageable for the balance sheet and from a micro market sizing point of view, once you acquire those projects, the investment or the contingent liability in construction goes down dramatically. To that extent, in fact, they are pretty de-risked. and you can pace them out as per your wish. So if suppose, I mean, generally speaking, you buy 100 acres, you can pretty much launch 20, sell it very, very quickly, and start spending money only on 20 and keep moving ahead, you know. That doesn't happen in a construction-oriented product. I mean, if you commit 3 towers, you pretty much committed 100 crores in construction to start with, even if the land value is low. And land is less perishable than the construction, you know, in our understanding. So, in fact, risk profile goes down when you are horizontal, and it actually goes up when you are more vertical. But I mean, as I said, there has to be a very judicious balance in this approach. We are a little more heavy on horizontal at this point in time. The strategy has really clicked for good reasons the last 3-4 quarters that we saw, and that's one of the reasons we could achieve this 500 crore sale comparatively quickly against what we had imagined at the beginning of the year. But that's how we want to consolidate. We believe that horizontals are very important, and they have to be a very healthy proportion of our overall portfolio.
Fantastic. That's very helpful. Thanks for the elaborate answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We would like to remind participants to ask a question. Please enter star and 1. We would like to remind our participants that you may press star and 1 to ask a question.
If there are no questions, maybe we can conclude.
Would you like to add any closing comments, sir?
Sure. So thank you very much, all of you, for sparing time and asking some very, very relevant questions. We'll be very happy to give further clarifications on anything which is left during the call. Call is a small window, but we are always there. The department is there. Ankit is there, and his team will be very happy to share more information, whatever is possible from our end. The quarter has gone very strong. The year is going very strong for us. Last year was one of the major milestones that we achieved. Going forward, we see a lot of green shoots, a lot of reasons to believe that we are in the right. We are here to kind of capitalize on the right kind of environment which exists all around us, and we are very, very positively placed to exploit the opportunity which faces us. Investments are the key. Project pipeline is the key, and we clearly know our priorities in terms of consolidating that. We know that we lagged behind the last few quarters due to pandemic on investment cycles, but that's what the target is, and that's what the endeavor is from here onwards. And we are very confident, and the team is working around quickly building a pipeline, and hence the focus is on creating inventory, creating opportunities, and creating avenues to grow in terms of fresh sales. The strategy is already yielding results, and we are sure that we'll keep consolidating on what we have built so far. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Arvind Smart Spaces Limited, that concludes today's conference call. Thank you all for joining us, and you may now disconnect your line.